Welcome everybody to our very first episode on the Ishtar Channel podcast. I'm sitting here with the beautiful Inasa Mabu Ishtar. My name is Jo Rushton. I've been a student of Ishtar's for 15 years now. And in the last 6 years, I have stepped into teaching Ishtar's channeled work with the masters, which has been deeply profound, has impacted my life on so many levels, has created an enormous amount of change and transformation within myself, and has brought so much grace to my life. And so I sit in an enormous amount of gratitude for the channel that Ishtar is, an enormous amount of gratitude to the masters for their teachings and their wisdom, and for the many schools that the masters have offered through Ishtar's channel that are here to help all souls walking this human experience in the physical form to really support humanity, to come into a deeper understanding of who we are and what we've come here for. So I'd like just to take a few moments to give Ishtar a little opportunity to introduce herself, talk a little bit about her background, and then we have a very special topic for us to start with.
Indeed, indeed. I've been a channel of a council of 33 Ascended Masters for the past 20 years. And I had a deep training with these masters over a 6-year period where I worked with them just about every day. I was first connected to by Saint Germain and then was trained by Lord Kutumi. He was my teacher and we did so much work together. But during that time, I was channeling once a week for the masters. I was channeling their wisdom and to many people, and that became a wisdom teaching mastery school called the Master's Way. And so over the last 20 years, I have channeled many schools now. I've channeled the Master's Way, which is a 3-year course. I have channeled the Open to Channel, which is helping others to connect to their higher consciousness, and Universal Rays Healing, which is a very powerful healing modality. And lastly, but certainly not least, is the Path of the One Heart, which is a school for light workers, taught by the Christed Masters who taught the Essenes. So all of this work has come through my pillar, my channel, and through my deep connection with the Ascended Masters in this council of 33 that I work with. And this work is very much about opening your connection to your spirit, but giving you very practical tools of how to do that and encouraging you to do that on a regular basis. My work is probably noted for being very down to earth, very practical, very much able to be followed by many, and yet it's very advanced high frequency work. And there are not many high frequency teachings around and available at this time for those who really want to delve into that higher consciousness of themselves that steps away from the mind and comes to ask you to really make that connection very deeply with your higher consciousness, with your spirit, with your soul, whatever you want to call it, and dive into that and really have that experience at a very deep level. But the reason being that to do this high frequency work does require a little bit of discipline, certainly a lot of faith, motivation, and at times I feel a lot of courage to do this work. But I can't tell you how formidable and how powerful the rewards are when you do it. People tell me all the time that this work changes their life. It turns their life around 360 on whatever level they choose to do it. And when you choose to do the work, your life certainly changes. And what happens is you begin to work through consciousness, no longer through thoughts and beliefs, but you work through the consciousness of your being. And this brings to you a certain grace, a certain ease in life, because you're so much more aligned to the universal creation energy and no longer just trapped in the mental, physical reality.
So we feel that the very first topic, it's a big topic, and we felt that there's no better way to launch into the many teachings, the many gifts, the many offerings through Ishtar's work than to start with the question that we would like to ask you all, and that is, who is your God? It may be a question that for some of you already are reacting to and feel a bit of a charge around such a question. But Ishtar said a moment ago that her work connects you to your soul, your spirit, and she said whichever word you'd like to use. And what we wish to talk to you about now is what I have come across with many students, many friends, many acquaintances over the years, when we start to go more deeply around the subject of who are we, why are we here, and of course through religion and the many different religions that there are today that are living philosophies offered to us to follow. And the real question is, why do we follow these religions? And who is the God that we follow? And have you ever considered that the idea of God is a consciousness that lives within you? And this is what we would like to speak with you today about.
In all the work over these 20 years that I've done with the Council of Ascended Masters that I've worked with, several things stand out for me I would like to share with you. The first thing is that when I have sat with these councils, and I mean literally sat with them in a higher dimension, and could sit there and see them sitting at the same table around me, next to me, they have never made me feel less than them. Never less than. Always equal to. There's never been any judgment, no matter what I do, how silly I create things for myself that just don't serve at all. Never anything like that. Always a complete acceptance. Well, you're the master here, and if that's what you're choosing to create for yourself, well, obviously there's a reason for it, and we're not going to question that. And I know that might sound a bit bizarre, because so many of us believe there is destiny that is set in stone, and I know that that is a very difficult belief to shake, to question. But the thing is, destiny is not set in stone. The creation energy in this universe is moving and creating constantly. And it's moving through each one of us. And none of us is standing still, no matter how much we want to sit in our rooms and pretend we are. But frankly, we're not, because our bodies are changing all the time. The cells are reproducing all the time. Our thoughts are reproducing all the time. Our beliefs change. They're not always stagnant. They're not always the same. Our interactions change. We're constantly changing. And it's the same thing with the creation energy, which is what we call destiny. It's constantly changing, depending on the beings that it's connecting to. So, you might have a path that you're asked to follow, but how you're choosing to follow that path will change that path, will create different detours, perhaps, different visions of that path. And that's because you're here making those choices. And how you make those choices is dependent on whether you're making them through your mind, through your fears, through your shadows, or through your conscious connection to your spirit. And wherever you're making those choices from will determine the path you walk and how you walk it.
So the first question here may be a challenging one, but I'd like you to ask yourself this as I pose the question to Ishtar. Why is it that so many of us put our power or attention on the creation energy, on what we might call God, creator, master? Why do we place that focus on something or someone outside of us?
Well, there are several reasons for this. The first one, of course, is our disconnection to our own spirit and soul, because we don't have that connection. Secondly, humanity's been programmed for thousands and thousands of years now to believe in an entity that is outside of us, and that is this being in the sky. For many of us, he wears white robes, has a long beard, and he sits on a cloud somewhere and he tells us all what to do. And he will judge us if we do the wrong thing against whatever he's set out for us. Yeah? And in truth, and I know many religious people might want to debate this with me, but in truth, what we've done is we've imposed our ego upon what we've determined as God. We've put our human self and imposed that upon the creation energy that I call source. But as I say to students, you can call it anything. You call it Fred, you can call it God. It doesn't matter what you call it. But in actual fact, it's creation energy, and it's not a man in a white robe with a long beard up in the sky who's sitting there throwing thunderbolts at us and telling us it's not going to happen and this is what's going to happen and all of that. So what it's really done is it's disempowered humanity at a very deep level, because we've given that power to this consciousness, whatever way we've chosen to look at it, and we've given it away. And it's disempowered the majority of people on this planet, and majority of souls believing that we are separate, we are less than, we are judged by, that we will be punished if we do the wrong thing. And so all of that, and we've created a parental God that actually is quite nasty, but this is a human God. This isn't source. This isn't creation energy. This is human God.
So it's a mirror image of our
us.
ego.
That's right.
That we've gone and projected onto an idea and created an idea, and then created many different representations
and beliefs around that create a lot of limitation for humanity and for us as souls in our experience of this amazing planet on which we live. And it's creating, this whole belief that if we're less than and if we deserve to be punished and we're constantly judged, then we tend to live up to that, don't we? It's like children. We're like children with a very judgmental, very disciplinarian parent. We will live up to what the parent is offering to us. And we are like the children living up to that.
So how would you guide somebody who is ready to question where they have placed their power, perhaps on an idea of the creator, the master, the God, whichever word we want to place, even placing the power back into the universe and believing that that's still something that's separate to us?
Yes.
What would be the first question you would have somebody ask themselves that would help to reorientate them to really challenge
that perspective?
Yeah.
I think the first thing I would ask anyone to do would be to be honest with themselves. And we're not always very good at doing that, are we? So really being honest with ourselves, I think, is the most important thing. And to really have a look at yourself and ask yourself, where are you placing your power? Where are you giving it away? And it won't be just with the image of God. It will be to your parents, mother or father, and you're saying, well, my mum did this or my dad did this, and that's why I'm like I am today. So they've judged me, they've put me in this box and I have to stay in this box now, I can't get out of it because that's where I am. Or my teacher did this, or my guru did this, or my guru says this, and therefore I must follow my guru. You know, my husband or my wife tells me I have to do this, so therefore I must do that. I don't question it, I just do it. My siblings do the same thing. So on and on it goes. So we really need to question where we're placing our power. And our power is in our choices. This is what people don't understand. They really think that power is about control, and it's about controlling others and controlling ourselves. I'm in my power when I'm in control of everything. And frankly, when you're doing that, your whole being is in fear because you're actually trying to control everything because you're in fear of not controlling everything. So if I control everything and if I create everything in the image that I want it to be, then I'm in control and I feel powerful. But what you're really doing then, you're still giving away your power to that fear of whatever that fear might be for you. Fear of loss, fear of not being enough, fear of not being loved, fear of not being accepted, fearing of not being perfect, fearing of not doing what you should be doing, fear of God that's going to strike you down if you do the wrong thing. I mean, all of these things. And it all comes out of fear. And we live our lives predominantly out of fear. And how can that serve you? How can it serve anyone to live your life from a place of fear?
So when we ask such big questions, because these really are, you know, they're big questions.
Yeah.
And if they challenge you, I think that's a good thing. They challenge you because a part of you is questioning something. And that part of you is often the part that's going to hold a higher wisdom if you choose to start to listen to that part of you. And so over the coming weeks, as our many episodes continue, we will be sharing with you some beautiful and very rich consciousness to help you awaken to a deeper part of yourself, to question, to challenge. And as Ishtar said, how does fear serve you in your life? We know, of course, that it doesn't, but how is it that we are to step beyond the fear that limits us in some way? And I feel that to ask ourselves always the question, when Ishtar speaks to our choice being our greatest power, then is what we are choosing in this moment, whether it's a thought, a belief, an action, is that serving us? And is that choice creating a sense of peace, a sense of harmony, centeredness, balance within ourselves? Or is it creating, through the belief that we're holding, somehow more separation within ourselves or others? So perhaps that's a starting point to begin to question whether or not the God that you idolize or have created an image of for yourself, the question is, does that image serve you? Is it creating for you in your life grace, harmony, balance, abundance, and peace? What would you leave our audience with?
I think two things. Don't be frightened to be challenged. I think today we're so used to not wanting to be challenged, our beliefs to be challenged. So we then vacillate always to people who believe the same thing and we sit with them. But when you do that, there's no growth. You don't grow by sitting in the same energy all the time because you're just repeating the same energy. You can't grow from that. You know, you're just going to get the same thing happening again and again. So allow yourself to be challenged. It's not saying you're less or a failure, but let yourself be challenged so you can look at whatever that might be for you. I think is really important. And as Jo said, when you're connecting to whatever your higher consciousness is, whatever your belief in your God is, whatever that might be for you, however you're placing your trust in that, ask yourself, does that consciousness, does that energy truly support you to create the choices in your life that really serve you to grow, to expand, and to evolve? Does that consciousness that you are choosing to follow as God, whether it be the guru, the God in the sky, whatever it might be, some symbol, whatever it is for you, is that consciousness really supporting you to make choices in your life that will bring to you growth and expansion at a deep level? Thank you.
Thank you for listening. And there will be many more scintillating conversations to tune into. Thank you.
Blessings, everyone. Blessings.